Hey guys, Mr. Majunix here again. And what are we looking at here? Well, this is the computer out of a 1994 Jeep Wrangler YJ. These things are known to go bad because of one reason alone. Those three capacitors you see there. Those three capacitors. The capacitors they put in this when they built it, this one was made in 1993. There's a little label, that little round thing there actually labels the date of when it was made. But it was put together in 1993, and the capacitors they put in had about a 10-year lifespan. Granted, it's been 20 years since they were put together, so they've lasted longer than their given lifespan, but that's the issue. Now they have better capacitors out with the same ratings. These are what I think they're 220 microfarads. This is what I had bought those. As I mentioned earlier in a previous video, I had bought a number of capacitors for a project. Well, instead of just buying the ones I needed, I actually bought a huge variety pack, so I'll have more for later if I ever need to do a little bit of electronics works. Capacitors are one of the things that tend to go after some time anyway, so having availability to replace them is very good. Now in this case, the Jeep Wrangler has a telltale sign indicative of what happens when anyone or all three of these capacitors start to lose their capacitance. And that is when you go to start, particularly in cold weather, the computer light will not come on, and it will just turn over forever and ever and ever until eventually the computer light will actually come on. And if once it comes on, probably like 5-10 minutes later, you turn it over, it'll start right up. So that is an issue. It'll also, you'll hear it clicking. It'll try to start to come on, but because the capacitors can't hold the power that it needs to activate, all the processing, it will go click, 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 like forever until the computer comes on. So that's a telltale sign. Now, what else to say about this? I have kind of a love-hate relationship with fuel injection, particularly because this is obviously, it needs a computer to run fuel injection as compared to carbs. So the first few years they came out with the Jeep YJ was carbureted models, and then they changed to electronic fuel injection. Now electronic fuel injection is good for convenience on a day-to-day basis, whereas they don't get flooded, they're easy to operate, not a big issue. But it's all computer controlled, which makes them susceptible to an EMP. So what I'm thinking of doing is getting a spare computer like this, keeping it in a Faraday cage, and holding on to it, for shit hit the fan scenario or what have you. So that being said, this one is actually a spare, specifically right now, because I actually have two different Jeeps outside, one of which I'm looking to restore completely, so it won't be a spare at that time. So this, for the time being, I may use that as a yard rig, or I may put this computer in a Faraday cage, while I'm rebuilding the other one. And then my other Jeep I use as a daily driver to be able to get me to my house. We've had some bad weather this year, and it's been pretty slick out there, and there's a lot of people that live up my way. I've seen footprints hoofing it 2 and 3 kilometers back on this private road. So I'm kind of glad that I got the Jeep, and there's a lot of modifications I want to make to the Jeep as well. But that's basically it. So computer, I fixed it. Just all you need to do: take out those 3 capacitors, make sure they're facing the same direction with the there's a little white thing on one side of it, and it always faces towards the big transistor here on the side. And there's online reviews basically, or on Jeep forums, of people telling you how to do this. So if you have a Jeep that's having that same issue, this is likely the culprit. I've put this one in and test fired the Jeep on a cold day. It was -9 degrees out Celsius, and it fired right up, so I know that was the culprit and that this fixed it. I do need to find some sealant to go in over top of these. As you can tell, this has like kind of a membrane over the whole thing, like a gel. I had to peel that back away, both top and bottom, and obviously soldered from the bottom, as you can tell. But that being said, I need to find some sealant to go over it so that I can put it back in its casing, and which will make it weatherproof, and put it back in the Jeep, or hold on to it in the Faraday cage. Anyway, I'm going to go out now and get some videos of the Jeeps and tell you my thought process on it and what I'm looking to do to it. So, thanks for watching.